Welcome to the High Achieving Parents Podcast. I am your host, Severine Nassens, and I invite you to join us as we explore the reality and family experiences of high achieving parents around the globe. Learn from like minded parents who do believe balance is possible, but not a one size fits all proposition. Stay tuned for conversations about how my guests juggle successful careers in parenthood to make it all work in their own way. Will we find a common thread throughout these interviews? Let's find out. Welcome back again to the High Achieving Parents Podcast. I am so excited today. I have a special guest, an amazing woman I've met over the years as we were studying Futuring with Yvonne de la Flor. We were students at the same time, and I was blessed enough to be able to participate in a 5-day program with Dawn. Dawn Davis is here with me today. She is a business and soul oracle and mentor. She is guiding specifically many women into their majesty and into their prosperity. She has an amazing program called the Rich Soul Program. She will tell us all about it in a moment. And she is the mom of two lovely little ladies, Maddie Rose and Samira, if I'm correct with her name. And she has been serving her purpose for many years now. Stepped out of corporate America into the coaching business, and she's here with us today to share the amazing story of yet another high achieving mom that has achieved so many things. And welcome, Dawn. So blessed to have you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and get to connect with you and talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is being a mom. I just love being a mom. Yeah.
And I mean, having your two little girls, I have one. Being moms to little girls at this time, in space, in time, in the world is an amazing challenge. I think it's a great challenge, especially for ourselves. It's challenging ourselves as mothers and as entrepreneurs. There's a lot to juggle, so there's a whole bunch of topics to talk about. But first and foremost, I'd like for you to share with us what has been your highest achievement professionally.
You know, I would say my highest achievement professionally has been taking the leap of faith to follow my dreams and do my soul's mission work. Like I call it my soul's purpose. And back in 2013, when I had my first daughter, I was working still in corporate America. And, I was doing great. It was good. I was making money and all that kind of stuff. But it was really, I felt like the golden handcuffs where it was, making a paycheck. And I had been doing intuitive healing work on the side for about 7 years. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, magically I was put on bed rest, and it gave me an opportunity to really sink into myself and really ask myself some deeper questions when I was able to be still and present. And what I really realized is I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back to doing something that wasn't making me feel alive and passionate. And so during that time, I made the decision to follow the path of being an entrepreneur. And I really had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I consider it, I've had many accolades when I was back in my sales career, was like a number one sales rep many times and all these kind of things when I was in pharmaceuticals and climbed the corporate ladder, but nothing has been more fulfilling than becoming an entrepreneur and then serving women through the fires of initiation of transformation. And so that just feels, it's not even about the money for me as far as when I think of my achievement, it's about, am I saying yes to my soul every single day? And I get to do that.
Yeah, amazing. And one of the main themes that run through your work is tapping into your soul, tapping into your purpose, right? That is what you bring us. That's what you bring the world. And I think it's so key that you're on point with that for yourself and being
Yes.
congruent with your own soul purpose, bringing that to others. How have you managed to combine motherhood and creating that successful business that you have at this day?
Yeah, such a great question. I think motherhood for me was an initiation into being my best self. So
Mm-hmm.
each daughter for me has provided very specific medicine. Like if like the wounds that I may have had, each one of them brings something so I can see myself in a new way, so I can evolve. I believe everybody has soul codes, and they have these specific, unique codes that make them who they are. And getting to be their mother actually gave me more motivation to do well,
Hmm.
to to show up fully so that I'm creating a legacy for them. And as well, that the one thing I did not know was going to happen for me with motherhood, because before, I was just used to taking care of myself. And, I was always like the friend who would like take care of all the, be there for the other friends and all that kind of stuff. But what was so interesting to me about motherhood is that I discovered a part of myself that was selfless. And so in the first couple of years of having my first daughter, I mean, so many sleepless nights. I decided to breastfeed for the first 2 years for each of my daughters. And, trying to navigate that. And it allowed me to step into this like archetypal energy of being the mother, a loving mother, a nurturing mother, which actually translated very well into my business. It's one of my archetypal energies that I hold, and it's allowed me to hold women very dearly through their transformation. So it ignited something in me that I didn't even know. I don't know if I would have ever gotten there if I hadn't had kids.
Yeah. How's that sense of selflessness led to issues for you? Because it has for me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and I think many moms, especially when we're a first time mom, we get overwhelmed and they're okay. There's this little being that needs me 24 hours a day, specifically as a mom. Um, you tend to forget about yourself, right? And you were talking about earlier about self care, about how important that is for us to create that balance. How did you have any issues like giving up too much of yourself for your girls?
Yeah, I did. I had a really hard time asking for help from my partner at the
Mm.
time. And I'm not saying he didn't help, but it was, I had this thought of like, I have to do everything on my own, especially when I was breastfeeding. And I was really controlling the first time around, if I'm
Hmm.
just being really honest. And I learned by the second one, I actually wound up about a year after having my second daughter, I wound up getting Epstein-Barr virus. And that is something that, you know, it makes you fatigued, it makes you
Hmm.
tired. And so I didn't know if it was just like something that had to do with the pregnancy still, but I wound up realizing that I had to slow down. I had to start asking for help. And so for me, I always believe a lot of the ailments, especially when we have like autoimmune stuff, it's our soul's
Hmm.
way of like really trying to tell us, like, hey, you're so out of alignment.
Yeah.
And so for me, like getting the Epstein-Barr virus was like proof almost that I was so not running my body correctly. I mean, it was like surviving off coffee, trying to do too much, and it was,
I hear you.
yeah. And it was, a challenging time in my life. And I had to really slow down. And I had to realize that there was also a season for everything in my life, because
Hmm.
I was trying to, especially in 2015, going into 2016, I was really wanting to build my business. So the first couple of years, I kind of just like let it, I was like growing it, but it was just like really like nice and kind of at a great pace. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden I had this drive after I had two of them. I was like, $2. I was like, okay, I really got to step it up. But I was coming at it from a place of force and trying to do it all. And that's why I believe one of the reasons I got,
Hmm.
sick and had to
Yeah.
change everything.
And I think many moms, especially moms, I know that also dads go through this. It's kind of a burnout. There's many different types of burnouts, but getting sick is your body, as you say, it's your soul, it's your body grinding you to a halt and saying, "Listen,
Yes.
just do
Stop
something
it.
for you
Yeah.
in the very first place," and slowing down starting to listen to your body, I think is key. And I totally identify with what you're sharing here, because I've been there, done that. I've been on coffee overload. I used to do that for many, many years as well, just to keep going and wanting to, having so many aspirations, wanting to cover so much, plus taking on the full-time job of being a mom. It will wear you out in the end. Once you got that illness, how did you go about restoring that balance for yourself?
So I really had to up my level of self care. And so I started to kind of do like a multi tiered where it was like maybe adding in massage, adding in some meditation, adding in some breath, throughout my day, like really just slowing down, because what I realized is I had this way of being that was running me a million miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like if you live in Alaska and you move to Hawaii and you're wearing the same clothes that you had in Alaska and Hawaii, it's not going to work. And so I got to this point where I had like this adaptation that had become very maladaptive in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and as an adaptation maybe from, I don't even know, my childhood, but I was just always going. I didn't want to stay still, always hustling, always trying to go for the next thing, wanting to be very successful, very driven, and realizing that if I came from it from that energetic, I call it like a template, like the way I was running my energy, that I was just going to be so fried. And so, yeah, I had to implement tons of self care. And it took, honestly, like when I look back, it went against how I was loving myself at the time, because I loved myself when I could push myself. And I thought that was part of like how I was supposed to be. So not only did I have to change how I was showing up externally, I had to really rewrite my mindset around that, and really allow myself to realize that in the presence, in the slowing down, there's so much to be had. There's so much amazingness. And so it was really like shifting so much internally
Mm-hmm.
and externally.
Yeah. Making that mindset shift, changing those patterns that we have. I mean, it's something that I've been working on for so many years, and I keep finding other patterns below the patterns that I've already been able to take care of and shift. It's amazing how we are wired. And then at the same time, being a mom, I look at it as, okay, this is how I am now wiring my own daughter. This
Oh,
is the
yeah.
programming I am giving her. What is the most important thing that you have shifted so that you can hand that off to your children? What is the most important pattern that you've let go of and that you've changed for your girls?
So I would say it's something that I'm continually working on, but what I find to be most important is to be present within our physical bodies. And I believe that's where our intuition lives. And I teach in all my stuff like that our intuition is something that we all naturally have and we should be listening to it. And so for me, teaching my daughters to trust their body's wisdom, to slow
Mm-hmm.
down, to feel, to be engaged with their environment, to notice how they feel around other people, to not just do something because somebody else is dictating that to them, to really, something feels off within them, to stop long enough and be like, that doesn't feel good to me, and to ask the deeper question of why. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like this real true, physical body presence that leads us to be at our highest capacity for intuition. That is very important to me for my daughters.
I think it's something that we should all learn to do as adults as well, to be in tune with our body, to really listen to our own emotions and deal with them and have those emotions, give them a place, give them a space, and make it a safe space for ourselves to live through our emotions. And teaching that to our children, I think, is one of the biggest gifts that we can give them, so they can have that emotional intelligence, because it's something that we don't learn that at school. We don't learn that as children. So I think it's important. What you're teaching your girls is really key for them to thrive in whatever it is that they end up doing in life,
Yeah.
because they will be present with themselves. And that's the first. I have this there's a saying that everything starts and ends with you. I'm so stuck to that phrase because I've come to understand that if I'm okay, everything else will be fine. If I'm in tune, everything else will fall into place. If I am emotionally balanced, my daughter will be better balanced and will have that calm, and will have that will have those tools as well. Because as we do, we teach, and they
100%.
as they see, they do. So it's a very um, important thing to pass on. Now, I know that over the past year, you've been through some difficult situations personally. How has that, as a parent and as an entrepreneur, how have you been able to deal with emotional struggles?
It's a great, great question. So for me, so last year in 2020, as everybody else was probably having their own shake up, wake up, within their life, maybe even a makeup, who knows? But well, everything's moving around in 2020. I decided to end my partnership that I had been in for almost 9 years. And it wasn't something that, was a rash decision. It was something that was very well felt into, is how I'm going to say it. It was very well felt into. And so, being that it was already a difficult year, being that I was about to just make a decision that was going to radically shift my daughter's lives forever,
Mm.
it was not something I took without a lot of thinking about and feeling into. So, anyways, for me, it was, I think one of the greatest things I've done for myself is learn how to work with my own inner child and my trauma.
Mm.
And so, one of the things that I've really worked adeptly on is being able to hold myself in the discomfort of my life. And when you decide to end anything, whether it's like leave a job or have a baby or whatever you're doing, end a marriage, it doesn't matter what it is. If you cannot find some stability within yourself, then everything's going to it's going to be like a wave coming that's just going to knock you down. And so for me, it's not to say that every step of the way I was always 100% okay, because there are plenty of moments where I was, down on my knees, sadder than I've ever been. And I was able to hold myself in it. And I was able to trust my intuition to know that I was making the right decisions. I was able to future out the possibilities of what I was moving into versus being able to stay stuck in the past. So that offered me so much to work with. And then when I started to lose sight of, maybe feeling like I was okay because there's just so much emotion going on, I would just always remember, I need to come back to my inner stability, to my inner core. And that's when I would kind of say to the outside world, no, a lot. I would say no. I would not go out as much. I wouldn't do as many things. I mean, granted, we haven't been able to do as much, but I was, not spreading myself thin. I was really this is time for me to take care of me so that I can still be a mother that can hold two other people, my daughters, through one of the most transitional times of their lives. And one of the things, you were saying about, our kids are always learning from us. What I think people don't realize sometimes is that energy speaks so much louder than words.
Yeah.
There's always an energetic conversation going on in the quantum field. And so my daughters, although there was a lot going on, I think the fact that I felt stable during a very unstable transition, time of our lives,
Yeah.
allowed them to be sad and feel what they're feeling, but to be able to actually stay grounded.
Mm.
And so to me, I had to do a lot of work on myself to get to that point. And I still continue to do a lot of work on myself. But mostly it was being able to, I almost feel like I see my body as a container of my energy, my emotions, all that kind of stuff. And then being able to hold that and stay still within that
Mm-hmm.
has been the greatest gift I've ever been able to give myself, because it helps me alchemize the harder things that are happening in my life, or the harder thoughts or feelings. And so, yeah.
Amazing. And I think it's amazing the way you've managed the entire situation and how you've been able to hold that space for yourself and for your girls to transition into that new life that you're now living. And um, having our kids understand that a relationship that is not working out it is okay to leave that relationship. It is okay to choose your own sanity before anything else, really. I think it's a very important lesson for our children to understand that we make choices, right? We
Yes.
constantly make choices, and the way you feel into those choices is very, very mature, very wise, with a lot of universal wisdom in there. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Um, how do you keep your sanity? Because I know you're very busy professionally, and
Mhm.
obviously doesn't it goes without saying that as a mom as well. How do you keep your sanity as you're juggling all the balls while you're keeping all the plates in the air, all the balls in the air?
I love it. Sometimes I don't. No, but for the most part, I'm like, honestly, sometimes I do get a little overwhelmed. I'm still working on that. Um, I think, what I've been working on lately, and it's becoming really apparent to me, is that one of the things I like to ask myself is, am I having fun? Like, am I enjoying my life? Because this life isn't worth it to me if we're just going to be serious and all work, no play, and going crazy so that we can like check off some boxes, So if I have to leave the dishes dirty, or if I have to like, maybe not work as much one week because it's my daughter's, opportunity to be home with me for spring break or whatever it is that's happening, I meet myself where I'm at
Mm-hmm.
and I try and have a lot of fun, and I'm really trying to play, because one of the things that makes me the most successful is when I'm happy and I'm enjoying myself. It's like it's a vibrational frequency of delight and attracting people into that energy. And so I'm getting away from this thought of doing so many things and being overwhelmed, and just knowing how to really schedule myself, how to really schedule and how to delegate. And I don't do tasks anymore that don't light me up. Like I don't there's just certain things like, cleaning my house. Sometimes I'll get a housekeeper to do it. It's everybody has different, capacity within all that stuff. But for me, I don't try and take on all these things I don't want to do. I really stay in my
Mm-hmm.
zone of genius, and I make sure I'm having fun and I'm enjoying my life.
Sweet. Amazing. I
Yeah.
like that. And I've come to understand that as well. And I think it comes with the years. As we grow a little bit older, we understand that we should be having more fun. I mean, it's something that I work with my clients as well, is bring some joy back into your life. We're hardworking, we're all focused on achieving those goals, but we forget to have fun. And then what's it worth, right? We're spending our time anyways.
Yeah.
We might just as well have a good time with it. So that's a
Yeah.
great point you bring up. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Um, if there would be one piece of solid advice for other high achieving parents that you could share with us, what would it be?
Don't try and make your kids like you. And I don't mean like you as in, like you as a human being, but like don't try and make your kids be a mini version of you. Like see it as your kids are these amazing souls that chose you, and that they have their own unique, beautiful, amazing personalities, and that we are there to guide them and lead them always back home to themselves and trusting who they are. And so I would say that as parents, our job is to check ourselves, to make sure that we're not putting our unmet needs and wounds onto our children,
Oof.
that we right, and
Oof.
that we can, really, like, part of loving them, I feel like is also a reflection back of like really loving ourselves,
Hmm.
because it's so easy to want them to be the unfulfilled parts of ourselves. And so for me, I'm really like looking at them as like, okay, how do I guide and lead and make sure that they have all the tools necessary to be the most epic human beings, and not put my stuff on them, my own stuff. So it's like really checking in with myself a lot.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
was a mic drop right there. It's like, phew. Oh, yeah. I remember myself saying, I don't want to be like my mom. And then I end up doing stuff just like my mom used to do. And it's like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm turning into my mom, and that's not the idea. And my daughter actually a couple of weeks ago, she said, Mom, And it was like one of those moments of truth. Mom, you're trying to make me as perfect as you are. I went like, oh dear Lord, I'm messing things up right now. Right? Because it was like a moment of truth for me to understand that I was putting my aspirations, just like you said, my hopes, my aspirations, my ways onto her. So it's like, back off, Mom. And she literally told me, back off. And that's one of the main things I'm really proud of my daughter, is that she's learned to express that, and she's learned to
Yes, that's what I was just going to say.
put that into words. And it was like, okay, I'm being served with a spoon of my own of my own teachings, which is what I really, really love about that. And I see that I'm so excited for Maddie Rose and Samira, for the future that's ahead of them with an amazing mom like you, giving them all that wisdom from a short age is such a big step ahead. It's such a they have a vantage point there, to all of us, really, which is really, really cool. And then I really appreciate you sharing that. Don't make your kids your mini me. I think that's
it's hard not to, but
yeah. And I think it's natural for us as parents to try to do that, right? It's an automated pattern that's in us, because that's what we know best.
Yeah, we're coming from our own reference point of our past.
Exactly.
And sometimes, like, I love dancing and singing, and one of my daughters, like, the thought of that was awful to her, and I wanted her to do that, and she was like, "No, Mom, that does not interest me." And I'm like, but that was everything to me. And she's like, "Not to me." And I was like, yeah. Okay, noted.
And we have to go back to those little notes and say, okay, that's not her. That's not her. Give her space. I think it's so key to give them their space, to allow them to develop their own personality, even if that goes completely opposite of who we are, because they are their own selves. They are their own soul, their own personality. And
yeah, and they come to they are yes. our teachers. Like, as much as we are their teachers and there to help them learn how to navigate and be self-sufficient in this world, they came here to teach us something too.
Oh, so many things.
Right?
So many
being
things.
humble. And I think sometimes parents are like, from that vantage point of like, I'm the boss, I'm here to tell you what's up. And I've had to really watch myself and be like, okay, how do I still remain in a place of authority and let them teach me and show me things too, which is a very fine line.
A very fine one. And we've got many years ahead of us of many teachings more coming through our kids. I think it's amazing how you see life. And I'm in tune with many of the things that you're sharing with us. Thank you so much, Dawn, for sharing your wisdom on this podcast. Just lastly, before we close, where can people find you, to reach out to you, to learn more, and to work with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook or Instagram under Dawn L. Davis. So it's ELLE, because everybody always just thinks it's the letter L, but it's Dawn L. Davis. Or you can go to my website at liveinyourlight.com.
All right. I'll make sure to put those down in the comments so that people can click on them and go learn more and reach out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Such a pleasure. I appreciate it. It was so fun.
And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Come and share your insights with me on social media at Coach Séverine Naessens, and visit highachievingparents.com for more information on how you too can find clarity and obtain the tools to find fulfillment in both your professional and family life. Talk to you soon.